guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. So I'm filming in a different spot today. I usually film in my bedroom, but today I'm going to film in front of my reptile rack. As you can tell by the title, I'm going to be doing a Crested Gecko care guide, and I've been meaning to do one of these for like ever, but it's like a lot of information and I knew it was going to take me a long time to film, so I finally got around to it today. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is just a disclaimer. With any animal, especially exotic animals, make sure you do your own research. And by research, I mean not just watching one YouTube video. Watch multiple YouTube videos by different people. Do your research on Google, like read articles, stuff like that. You don't want to just watch one video and think that you're good and then go buy the animal. Everybody does things a little bit differently, as in care-wise. I mean, it's pretty basic, the majority of it, but people do different things. So in this video, I'm just going to tell you guys what I think, what I suggest, what has worked for me for the past 5-ish years. But yeah, make sure that you do your own research. Make sure you know the commitment. These animals live a very, very long time. If you think that you're going to get bored of it in like a year or two, this probably isn't the animal for you. They're going to live like over 10 years. So you definitely need to understand the commitment. You need to understand the care. Reptiles do cost a lot of money. It is pretty much a full-time job. If you get one reptile, it's obviously a lot easier to keep up with. I have 7. So if you want to see all my animals like in depth, I posted a Meet My Reptiles video. I will link that down below, so you can give that a watch after this video if you want to meet all my reptiles. Okay, I think that's all the disclaimers that I wanted to say. Okay, I kind of made like a little list on my notes section on the topics that I wanted to touch base on. So the first one is going to be where to get them from. I'm sure if you're doing your research and you watch a lot of people who own reptiles, you probably know that Petco and PetSmart and, you know, chain pet stores aren't the best place to buy your animals from. If you watched my reptile video, or if you're going to, I did buy Ada, my oldest Crested Gecko. I did buy her from Petco. No, I don't regret it, but I also do not suggest it or recommend it. You don't want to support places like that. They treat their animals horribly. Like, it's just not good, you know, and half the time you're not even getting a healthy animal. So I suggest buying from a breeder. You can either go to Expos, you can look online. Morph Market has like a shit ton of breeders that you can purchase from. I definitely suggest getting from a breeder that has good reviews. Don't just buy from like a random breeder that you know nothing about. Most of my animals have come from a breeder, besides Ada, obviously, and I just got lucky with her. She was underweight and dehydrated, but nothing that I couldn't fix. Yeah. Please buy them from a breeder. Do not buy them from a chain pet store. I also want to talk about pricing a little bit. So you can get a pretty affordable Crested Gecko. Juno, this cage right here, I bought him when he was a little teeny tiny baby and he was like $40. But they can range from anywhere from like $30 to over $1,000. Like the morphs and the genes and all that are going to change the price of the animal. So like a lily white is going to be really expensive. Juno's a Dalmatian or a Harlequin, stuff like that isn't going to be as expensive. It really just depends on what you're looking for, what you like. If it's like your first reptile or anything like that, I wouldn't suggest buying something super expensive. That's just me. Adults are usually going to be a little bit more expensive than babies, just because, you know, full-grown females, you can just start breeding and make more money off of it. Babies, you have to raise up in order to do that. That's also something that can change the price. The next topic is going to be babies versus adults. So I think that if it's your first reptile or your first Crested Gecko, I would suggest getting an adult. And I mean, that doesn't go for everybody. It's, you know, if you do your research and you know what you're doing and you're willing to give it the best life possible, then go ahead, get a baby. I like getting babies because you get to grow them up yourself and you get to experience that instead of just buying them as an adult. But I didn't buy my first baby until after Ada. Thor was my second Crested Gecko and I got her as a little tiny baby and I raised her up, but I already had Ada for like 2 years. So I knew what I was doing, I knew the care, and I felt confident in that. If you know what you're doing and you're confident, then go ahead, get a baby. If not, I really suggest beginners to get an adult. It is just easier. You don't have to establish them eating or, you know, changing multiple cages, because when they are a baby, they do grow up, and you can't just put a baby in a huge cage. You have to slowly upgrade them. So if you don't want to buy 3 cages over the span of their life, get an adult. That leads me into the next topic, which is the enclosure. Juno is in this cage. I think this is like a 18 or 12 by 18, something like that, Exoterra. I'm not really sure. He, she, I haven't sexed her yet. Juno is still a baby. It's not full grown, anything like that. When I get a baby, I put them in a critter keeper. You know what you keep like crickets in? It's like 10 bucks. And I will keep them in there until they outgrow it, and then I will move them into something bigger. For example, like this. Or you can even make a tub and drill holes in it. That's actually what I did for Thor. So you kind of want a small, medium, and then a big cage. For their actual cage, their cage that they're going to be in for the rest of their life, I suggest a 20-gallon long flipped on its side. I will insert a picture here of the tanks or a video footage of me showing you my adult cages. A lot of people get the bigger size of the Exoterra. I think it's like 24, I don't know what the measurements are. I'll put it up on the screen or something. They usually get like the bigger Exoterra. The only thing with that I don't agree with necessarily is it's not as high. Crested geckos are arboreal. They are not terrestrial. They like to climb. They're rarely ever on the floor of the tank. So when you're giving them a big cage, yeah, it's great, but it's more wide than it is tall, and they don't even use that space anyway. So I suggest a 20-gallon long. It's also cheaper. Petco usually does like a sale, and that's how I got all of my 20-gallon longs. I bought them on sale for like 90 bucks, 80 bucks, 60 bucks. I don't really remember. It's way cheaper than an Exoterra. Yes, the Exoterra is nice because it has front opening doors, but the 20-gallon longs that I have actually has a little open door on the screen. So that's what I suggest. That way they have a lot of height to climb on and whatever, and it's not so much wasted space going this way. So that's pretty much the tank. Like I said, get a critter keeper or make different size tubs. Tubs are really cheap. You can get them from Target, the dollar store, I mean literally anywhere, and just drill holes in it, move them up until they get to their bigger cage, like a 20-gallon long flipped on its side. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what goes inside of the enclosure. For bedding, I like to use Eco Earth, Cypress mulch, mix them together. You could pretty much use anything. You can even use like Reptibark, stuff like that. When my Crested Gecko is a baby, I do not like to do substrate. I like to do paper towels. That way I can see if they're pooping. I don't have to worry about them, you know, eating the substrate. And then once I upgrade them to their medium enclosure, I will switch them to bedding. So like I said, I use Eco Earth, Cypress mulch, Reptibark sometimes. It just depends on what I have at the time on hand. Paper towel for babies, bedding for sub-adults and adults. You also want to make sure that they have a lot of coverage. It's actually perfect that I have this cage right here. You want to make sure that they have a lot of coverage and a lot of stuff to climb in, hide behind, all that stuff. So I just get fake plants from Petco. Chewy always has a lot of fake plants. I'm sure you can find them on Amazon. This is what Juno's cage looks like. I have a bunch of like hanging suction cup plants on the sides of the glass, and then I just have a fake pothos on wood at the bottom, and then I also have something for them to climb on. So for Juno, I just have like this fake wood piece. I really like to get those fake bamboo bars. I have them in all of my adult enclosures. That little hut, all of my animals have that. They love it. They sleep on it. They sleep inside of it. I got that from Strudy's on Etsy. I will link them down below. So pretty much you want to give them a lot of foliage. You want to give them a lot of stuff to climb on, hide in, everything like that. If you think that you don't have enough, add more. You can't really overdo it. I mean, you can, but you just don't want the cage looking sparse. You pretty much want them to be able to climb anywhere in the enclosure without a problem. So like I said, I will insert clips of my other enclosures just so you can get an idea, but this is Juno's for the moment. As for heating and lighting, they do great in room temperature. You don't need to get them any extra lighting or UVB or anything like that. If they are getting the right amount of vitamins and, you know, diet, they don't need UVB. I think it's D3. As long as they have D3 in their diet, they don't need UV. You could totally do that. It's not going to hurt them. It'll probably, you know, give more enrichment. I mean, I don't use it, so I don't recommend it. The only time I would say you need additional lighting is if your house gets really, really cold. So my old house got really, really cold. My apartment gets really cold, especially in the winter. So I actually have 2 heating lamps. I get the lamps that have the dial on them so that you can, you know, change the strength of the bulb. I only use ceramic heat emitters. Do not buy a red bulb, do not buy a purple bulb, do not buy a blue bulb, do not buy any of those. They are not good. You don't even want to buy a white bulb. Buy a ceramic heat emitter. It gives off nothing but heat. I will link the lights that I use down below. I will link the ceramic heat emitters that I use down below. And I only use it, like I said, when my house gets really cold. So right now it's gonna be spring soon, so I haven't used them in a while, but some of the winter nights it got like 60 and I was like, oh my god, that's kind of too cold for them. So I would just move. I have them over here. I don't know if you can really tell. I just have them on the side ready to use whenever I need them. So I would just move them over here, one up here, one down here, turn it on, and it would raise their temperature. Don't put it on top of the cage. Don't put it too close to the cage. You kind of just want to heat the air around them. And that's a question that I get a lot is, do they need heating? Do they need lighting? All that stuff. And they are really easy. They are very, very easy care. It's not like a bearded dragon where you need to give them a bunch of UVB and lighting and heating and, you know, this and that. Even a leopard gecko requires stuff like that. If you want a reptile that doesn't require a lot of that stuff and is pretty easy, I would get a crested gecko. As for their temps, they do like high humidity, so twice a day I will mist down their enclosure just to bump up the humidity. They also like to lick the droplets off the leaves. You want to keep their humidity at like 50-ish%, like around there. I will mist them twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. At night I do mist them a little bit heavier than in the morning. I try to keep them like in the 70s. So what is Juno's at 74 right now. I don't really like to go below 68 and I don't like to go over 80. They can get heat stroke or heat exhaustion if they go too high. They're from New Caledonia, so it does get pretty cold there at night. As for like water, you want to use like bottled water or Reptisafe. Reptisafe is a conditioner that you can add into the water, and it just helps it not be harmful to the animal. I have this little like $1 spray bottle and I will put a couple of drops of Reptisafe in here, fill it up with tap water, give it a shake, and then I'm good to spray down their enclosures. I also wanted to say that for their food dishes, you want to get a food ledge that either suction cups to the side of the cage or is magnetic. I will link the one that I use down below. Like I said, they are never really on the floor and they don't like to eat on the floor. So you want to make sure that their dish is, you know, in the middle of the tank or like more towards the top of their tank. You don't want to just put their cups on the floor. You want to get a ledge of some sort. Strudy is where I get these little houses from. They make a bunch of food ledges. I just wanted to mention that because I do see that a lot. People just put the cups on the ground and just put it off of the ground. I mean, that's pretty much it for the enclosure. You know, make sure that it's sized accordingly to how old they are, how big they are. You want to make sure you have a lot of foliage. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, all right, so we did enclosure, we did temperatures. I will put the exact temperatures right here, like humidity and like ambient temperature over here. And then for their diet, majority of their diet is made up of fruit. So I know Petco, I've literally been in Petco buying something and I've heard the worker tell somebody who was buying Crested Gecko, you could just feed them crickets. No, you can't. Most of their diet is fruit in the wild. So no, do not just feed them crickets. I suggest Pangea. My cat just jumped up on the table. Hi, Mad Mouse. But the camera just shut off, so I don't know why I just did that, but I suggest Pangea. I don't really like Repot. I've used it, I've tried it, don't like it. You can get it online. Most expos have them. I have a bunch. I have this one, which is Fig and Insect. They love this one. This is their favorite. There's also, oh my gosh, this was open and I just spilled it all over the floor. I'm so stupid. I also have this watermelon one, and I also have this little apricot one, however you say it. And then I also bought this one from Leaping Lychees. It's a breeder and he started making his own food, so I thought I would try it, and they actually like it. I don't like Repot. I don't suggest using it. That's just my opinion. Like I said, you'll probably find a bunch of other people that use that. I just don't think it's as nutrient enriched as Pangea. Pangea pretty much has all the stuff that it needs in it. Like, it's a complete Crested Gecko diet. Like, that's literally what it's called. But it has all of the vitamins, everything that they need. I really like the Fig and Insect one because it has insects in it, and they're getting fruit and insects. I also suggest having a bunch of different flavors. You want to give variety in their diet. That goes for pretty much any reptile. I don't want to just keep giving them the same thing over and over and over again. So every time I feed them, I change between these. As for insects, you can give them insects. Babies, I tend to give them insects a little bit more often just because they are growing and I want to get that fat on them. But you could do mealworms, dubia roaches, crickets. The only thing I would say is dusting them in powder, like a D3, something like that, a vitamin powder. I literally just go to Petco, buy crickets, and dust them and give that to them because they don't really feed them anything nutritious. Like, people who have colonies at home feed them fruits and, you know, vegetables and all that stuff. You know, they're like gut loaded and it's really good for them. But when you're buying them from just like the pet store, there's nothing. They're not enriched with anything. So you want to dust them with calcium powder or D3 powder. Not every time, you could do every other time. For my adults, I don't really give it to them that often just because they are really fatty, especially mealworms. It is good for them. Like, if you throw 2 crickets in their cage and they can like hunt it down, it is good to like stimulate them like that. Thor and Ada don't even like insects. Like, they won't even eat mealworms anymore or crickets. They did when they were little, but now that they're older, they like won't take them. Juno and MJ love mealworms. I also hate crickets like so much, so like I try not to buy them. I'm better with mealworms. I'll just give them mealworms as like treats here and there. Back to Pangea, it is so easy to use this. Like, I just mix it in a little cup with water. I don't really measure out the water. It says like mix 1 part powder to 2 parts water. I just eyeball the consistency. I'll just mix it in a cup, and then I have caps. I use like Gatorade caps, milk caps, water bottle caps. I will separate the smoothie in between all 4, put it in a cup, and then I will put the cup into their ledge. You want to get a ledge that has 2 holes. So you want 1 cup with water and then 1 cup for food when you feed them. I always keep water in there for them. I suggest it. I've seen them drinking out of it because you're only misting twice a day. So that might not even be enough for them to get water. I really feel like I'm gonna like forget things in this video, and I'm just trying to remember everything. How often do you feed them? So babies, you want to offer food every single night, and I know it's frustrating because they're probably not going to eat it every single night. It's also very hard to tell if a baby is eating. They're so little, they don't even eat enough to leave like a little indent in the food, but as long as they're pooping, they are eating. My adults, I feed like every other day, every 2 days. If I feed them every day, they don't eat it. I waste the food. But babies, you have to offer them every night. They are growing, and you don't want to like stunt their growth or anything like that. When you bring a reptile home, you don't want to hold them right away. You want to make sure that you have the cage and the enclosure set up a week, 2 weeks prior to bringing them home. The animal is going to be very stressed. It's a new environment. They probably were just in the car and shoved in a little container. Like, they're going to be stressed, and they are going to need time to adjust to their new environment, to their new home. So make sure that you have your cage, your enclosure, whatever, set up prior. And once you bring them home, put them in their cage, you know, give them their water, give them their food, mist down their cage, and just leave them alone. Like, don't try to handle them. And I know you will want to because it's like your new child. Seriously, don't. It's gonna benefit the animal the most. Give them like 10 to 14 days of a de-stressing period. I've done that with all of my animals. Like, for my snakes, I like don't even offer them food until those 2 weeks are up. Like, I don't even do that. I have a heat gun. So I actually use this for all of my animals, but it is good to have them. I obviously have this on Juno's Enclosure, like one of these digital ones, but I always say that you should have more than one way to check their temperatures because that one might not be accurate. This one might not be accurate. You don't want to like rely off of just one thing. This is just a heat gun. I got it on Amazon for like 10-15 bucks. I will try to link it down below, but you want to get one of these. You want to get one of those. I'm actually going to link one down below that I use for my plants, because that one tells you the humidity level and the temperature. So I suggest that one over like these crappy ones from Petco. Handling, I would say I don't really handle my reptiles that often. They don't like handling, like they tolerate handling. I don't like to take them out that long or often, anything like that. I really just take them out to take pictures of them for my Instagram or just say hi to them. But for the most part, I really just leave them alone in their cage and let them chill and do their thing. They are really easy to handle. Babies are a little bit less easy to handle. They're like kind of crazy. I'm hopping back on here really quick because I forgot to mention something. With the handling, you want to make sure that you're being very careful when you are handling them, especially around their tail area. They can drop their tail and it does not grow back. It's actually pretty common in crested geckos for them to drop their tail. It is a defense mechanism, so if something's chasing them in the wild or has a hold of them, they can throw their tail or drop their tail and get away. But it is something that naturally happens. If it happens to you and your crested gecko, don't freak out over it. Ada actually had her tail for 5 years before she dropped it, and then when I moved into this apartment is when she dropped it, and it is really upsetting. It's kind of scary when it happens. I do prefer the way that they look with a tail. It doesn't affect their quality of life. It will take them a little bit to learn how to like jump without their tail, because their tails are prehensile. They just kind of have to learn how to like live without a tail and using that kind of like as a fifth limb. The only thing that I would suggest is if they do drop their tail, to take them off of bedding. If you have them in bedding, move them to just paper towels. That way like the dirt from the bedding can't get stuck into it or get infected. Just move them onto paper towel until they heal. I also tend to mist more often just so they can stay like moist and wash anything away that gets stuck in there. You want to make sure you're cleaning the cage a lot more often when they are healing. And if you think that they are infected and you're worried, please take them to the vet. I just forgot what I was gonna say. I also wanted to say about like cleaning the cages. I will link the products that I use to clean their enclosures with down below. If you want me to make a whole separate video on how I clean my enclosures, let me know. I can film that. That's pretty much what I wanted to add. Back to the outro. That is pretty much it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and like, and I will see you guys in my next one.